Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Klinger2. In today's video I'm going to be talking about my favorite Pokemon games to my not so favorite Pokemon games. I did rank all these in chronological order from when they were released. If I got any of them wrong, just let me know in the comments, but I'm like 99% sure I got all these correct as far as they released. To be fair warning here, I have not played both versions of pretty much any of these titles. I have played a lot of the third versions, like there's red, blue, and then yellow. There's diamond, pearl, platinum. I've played platinum. I played yellow. I played a lot of these other games too, especially even the older ones, which most of those came from my brothers, and they actually gave me those as a kid, which I played actually before I even touched Ruby and Sapphire, which when I was a kid was the game that most people started out with, and definitely by the time I hit mid-elementary school, fourth gen came out and everyone was playing that. So really, I have played all these. I shouldn't say all of them. I played, like I said, for instance, like red and blue. I own all three of these. I used to own these two, but let's say I only played red, but not blue. I can technically put blue goes here because I haven't played that, but I played red and it's outside of some regional or game differences, there's really not a whole lot different with those two games. Really, the only differences are going to be like the third ones, which I will talk about as we progress. But yeah, let's just start off with blue, I guess. I'm going to put blue here just because I haven't played it. But I have played red, and I played this as a kid. So this also is going to be another thing. I'm probably going to skew some of these to when I was a kid and my memories of when I played these games. If I played them now, I might have a different view. But as a kid, I remember these from a kid's perspective, as well as, let's say, for instance, Gen 1 is an exception here, because this game got remade 3 times, or 2 times, and I actually played all 3 versions. So, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee are very, solid recreations on Pokemon Red. The thing about Pokemon Red and Gen 1, and now I'm actually talking about the games, is the games are extremely long and extremely tedious for almost no reason at all. The amount of fights you have to do for NPCs are ridiculous. There's literally stretches of the game where you just go from one trainer to the next trainer to the next trainer to the next trainer to the next trainer, and it's just it goes on and on for a literal 30-minute escapade. And if you don't have the speed up in the ROMs and stuff like that, that's literally brutal to go through. It is not fun. From a kid's perspective, I liked red. Now, I think red is still really, if I'm going to actually give it a fair score of this would be my score now, looking at Gen 1 as a whole, after playing through the more modern Gen 1 remakes. As a kid, this game is an A tier. This basically brought me into Pokemon. I still play Pokemon to this day. I'm still going to pick up Pokemon Scarlet when that comes out, and I'm going to play that on stream at The Real Klinger2 on Twitch. And yeah, overall, it's just, this game as a kid was really fun, got me into Pokemon. The actual gameplay of it, I liked as a kid. It taught me a lot of Pokemon. It taught me a lot of how to do super effectives and stuff like that. Because this is what you do as a kid. You're still learning the game and stuff like that. But really, it's looking back on it, Gen 1, especially this version of Gen 1, the originals were very busted. Speed was linked to critical hits, which led to very weird mechanics. There's a lot of just glitches you can do. There's just a ton of stuff in Pokemon Gen 1, the originals, that are just very busted as far as the gameplay perspective goes. But it's maybe 10 people. Very good game for what it is, and obviously it spawned the most profitable franchise of all time. So for that alone, I feel like it deserves A tier, along with my nostalgia for it. Now, Pokemon Yellow is basically Gen 1, but you get to have Pikachu following you around, which is really cool. There's some mini games you can do with Pikachu in it. There's a few other things you can do, but really, the main draw is you can play with Pikachu. Honestly, that's pretty cool. As a kid, I thought that this gen was better than just a normal one, so I'm gonna put the S tier. Yellow version's pretty neat. Now, I did own both of Gold and Silver. So with that said, Just a little thing on yellow. I think they actually fixed a lot of the issues that were in the originals, so good on them for that. But it still wasn't a super fleshed out game. So let's move on to Gen 2 here. So I did own both of these. Let's just get that out of the way. I never played Silver. I really wanted to pick up Silver. I went to a convention and I picked up Pokemon Green over Pokemon Silver because Silver at that time was pretty expensive in comparison. It's like maybe $30, $40, and I don't remember exactly. It was like $30 to $40, and Pokemon Green was like $20. So I picked up Pokemon Green instead because I was in high school and didn't have a lot of money. But now that game is probably hitting about $70 plus, so I would assume so. But yeah, I never played it. I want to though. So Gold and Silver are pretty cool. I never really beat the game completely because I kind of got bored of it. I don't really know what happened to it. I don't think I played it nearly as much as the originals. But the one I remember playing the most is Gold. So looking back on it, I mean, for me as a kid, this lost my attention. Realistically, I'd probably put this at a C tier. I also just really don't like Gen 2. It's probably my least favorite generations, if not my least favorite. And for Silver, I did play this. I did play it, but I don't put it in the same tier. Realistically, this would be going about here because I really don't remember playing it that much, but I did own it and I would play it. So I'm putting it at C tier for now. So yeah, Gen 2, you basically went through the game. You played the Gen 2 version of like the actual stuff for the game, and then after that you went and played the Kantos version, which is Gen 1. You went through all those gym leaders and stuff, so it's a really in-depth game. What it actually was is a DLC for the first game. Now, it was actually supposed to be the final product of Pokemon 2. I don't think they were actually supposed to make any more Pokemon after that. I mean, as we know now, there's a ton more Pokemon, but at the time, this was supposed to be the last of the actual game. And at this point, they added in the special split, which benefited a lot of Pokemon. Didn't do some Pokemon that well. There was no special attack, if I'm not mistaken, yet. There wasn't any special defense. It was literally called attack and special. If I remember it correctly, I'm pretty sure I am. And that's how it worked. There was basically an attack and a special attack. Or a special... No, special included defense and attack. That's what it was. So there is normal attack and defense, and then there is special, which included both special and special defense. Special attack and special defense. As we know now, those two stats are split. But at this time, that's what happened here. And very, I didn't, like I said, I don't remember a lot of that because I was a kid when I played this. But when I played it, I was kind of bored of it, to say the least. So, yeah, I put those in C tier. Now, this is whenever my generation started playing Pokemon and we kind of understood how the games and stuff like that worked, is Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Now, let's just get this out of the way. Emerald's an S tier. Ruby and Sapphire are both really good games. I'm going to put both of these in A tier. Now, like I said, I only owned one of these. I'm pretty sure I own Ruby. So, technically this will go down here. I did play Emerald. I own both of these. I know that for sure. And these games are really, really fun. Just overall, the Battle Frontier is super cool on how they did that. The Pokemon were very more advanced. I mean, it's like the Game Boy Advance. They kind of stepped up their game as far as the Pokemon designs went when this came out. You got Kyogre and Groudon or Rayquaza is like your main legendaries here. You got pretty much staples for like competitive Pokemon for an extremely long time, with basically this one being banned, Rayquaza in his mega form, Groudon and Kyogre being extremely good still. And as a kid, man, I like playing this game. I started to kind of grow distant from Gen 3 just because I didn't like Gen 3 as much as let's say Gen 4, but I still like this game a lot. It's a pretty fun game. I'd say anybody, if you really want to try this out, I'd say Emerald. And at today's standard, most of my age group is to the point now where we're Gen 1ers, but for Gen 3. So with that being said, it's like when you see all those streamers that are around my age and like stuff like that playing through Emerald Kaizos, Emerald like ROM hacks and stuff, that's what they're doing. They're playing their childhood game. Yeah, a lot of people in my generation remember Emerald as being like the crown jewel of Pokemon. So with that being said, very good games. Honestly, nailed. I remember playing as a kid. I played like fake Pokemon in the recess because of these games. I played like Plusle and Minun, and I'd like LARP as those guys basically back in elementary school. You get the Pokemon cards, you come in, and it's like crazy because now you got the teachers coming after you to kick your cards out of the school and stuff like that. You're trying to like sneak the Game Boy in underneath your like sheets and stuff like that to like try to play Pokemon at nighttime. It's like, yeah, these three Pokemon games are like the staples of pretty much anyone in my age group's like childhood. So, extremely good games. Emerald's the best out of all of them, like most of the third iterations are. So yeah, next up we got Fire Red and Leaf Green. Now these ones are kind of smack. I'm not even gonna lie. These are probably the best Gen 1 remakes out there. I like the Pokedex a lot. As a kid, I loved the Pokedex. I thought the Pokedex was so cool. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I thought like the fact that you can like see and like where the Pokemon come from. You can like look at the like Pokedex and like see like they came from the caves. They like came from the grasslands. That was super cool. And you get like the Pokedex is like super in depth. And I'm talking about the Pokedex. So that's what I remember a lot from this game. I thought it was the coolest feature in the game. As far as a faithful remake goes, this Pokemon game has to go at the top. Now I didn't get Leaf Green, but I got Fire Red. Very fun game. I think if you're gonna play a actual remake of Gen 1, I'd say Fire Red is probably gonna be your best option. And there's a lot of ROM hacks out there. This game is easily accessible online, along with Gen 3. Very fun game. I would recommend it. And the graphics, major upgrade. You got the actual cool pixel art in there with the Pokemon and stuff. Charizard looks a little bit chunky, if I'm not mistaken. And, you got the fully revived, like, everything super colorful because it's the Game Boy Advance. A super fun game. I loved it as a kid. So, there we go. Alright, so this is my nostalgia. So, a lot of people's nostalgia were these. This is kind of in my nostalgia bracket. This is like my early nostalgia. I didn't really understand a lot yet then. Now these, Gen 4 is my nostalgia. This is my jam right here. So, these games suck, but I'm putting them at S tier. I'm putting it Platinum at S tier. Pearl, I actually had Pearl. I did not have Diamond. Pearl goes in A tier. Platinum, I say they suck because I played them again recently in their remake. Now, I don't know if it was the remake doing it no justice, but I do feel like the games were definitely lacking in Pokemon and hindsight and stuff like that, but I do not care. When I was a kid, these games were awesome. These games were like top of the line, absolute great games. Platinum, you go to the Distortion World, you get to catch like Pyolka, Dialga, not Dogia. Tons of legendaries, tons of just things to catch, do. The only downside is like I said, like the pool of Pokemon that actually were made for Gen 4 that weren't evolutions, pre-evolutions, were very small, and the amount of fire Pokemon in this game were tiny. There's only like, I think like there's two lines of Pokemon. There's like Infernape, and then there was like Rapidash and like Ponyta, and that's like pretty much it. There might be like one or two others, but it's like no more than 4. Pearl is a very bare bones Platinum. Honestly, if I'm taking out the nostalgia goggles, this would be a B tier Pokemon game. Platinum's an S tier. I don't care. I'm putting on the nostalgia goggles. I'll put on everything to back that game up. Flipping Platinum was my childhood, and I don't care what you say. That game is an S tier, just straight up. So I would recommend Platinum if you haven't played it. I think it's a great game because you got Distortion World, which is probably one of the more unique mechanics in any Pokemon game, or just worlds. Then you can go into, what else could you do in that game? There was the Poke Park, which is the Safari Zone, which is pretty cool. you could upload your Game Boy Advance games into your Poke Park and catch them there, which is also probably the easiest method of transferring Pokemon's ever done, just to be honest. Yeah, it probably is, honestly, with Pokemon Home and stuff being a thing now. Like, that was by far the easiest was back then. There's tons of legendaries. I love the game. All right, we're moving on. So I actually got Heart Gold. And like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Gen 2, but it is a better version of the originals, and I'm pretty sure about that. I'm putting in a B tier, and we're going to get some flack for that. Like I said, I played it as a kid. I couldn't even beat it as a kid because I just got bored of it. I just literally got bored of it. I got to the tower where you get the dogs, or you at least let them start roaming and stuff like that. I mean, it's a fun game. I thought the Pokewalker was super cool. I did use a Pokewalker, which is basically the pre-iteration of Pokemon Go to an extent. And overall, I think it's a fun game. Or this thing is less fun than like the other ones that are above this, to be honest. It's a super long game too, so if you like the long games, then that's cool. But when it comes down to Pokemon, though, I just never liked the Gen 2 Pokemon. I thought all of them were kind of just lame. Sucks to say that, but I just think that's the case, except for like a few. Like the dogs are cool, the legendaries, Tyranitar. But like the overall, like Giraffe Rig and stuff like that are kind of just like, give or take on that. So I mean, yeah, I think it's a B tier. I didn't really give any firm foundation on that. I just remember from when I was a kid that this was not that fun. I didn't even beat it all the way. When I get more towards the end here, I'm actually going to start like giving like full-fledged like opinions on like modern times. So I got black instead of white. So I remember this game, and this came out in middle school. I was super hyped for this game. I got the actual like instruction manual, like the thick back covered. It's like cardboard. My gut says I want to go with B. I just can't put it up there with like these two. These two are really good games. Man, yeah, I couldn't go higher with this, to be honest. I think this is what I'm going to say. I didn't buy Black and White 2 because I didn't find this game to be super in depth or super fun. I found it to be very cool, and I liked a lot of the Pokemon designs. I think at this time, though, I was growing out of that, like, Pokemon phase for, like, a few years. And I was becoming, like, trying to be the cool kid or stuff like that, and I just, like, didn't really think that Pokemon was as fun anymore. But I still liked the game. The topics that they were talking about, they were kind of hard-hitting for, like, even a middle schooler. I just didn't have, like, the brain capacity to understand some of the stuff that was going on. I do remember the cutscenes, and I remember that even for the DS, like, those cutscenes were pretty nuts. So, like, very good game. Looking back on a hindsight, as most people will say now, Gen 5 is probably, like, the hindsight, like, golden game, basically. But at the time, though, I really didn't see this game that great. I really didn't care about the Pokemon being, like, very out there. I thought that some of them were definitely cool, but I thought some of them were kind of just weird. My favorite Pokemon comes from this, actually, Darmanitan. And I used Ferroseed as well. I didn't know that Ferrothorn was, like, meta, but, like, I like using Ferrothorn. He's pretty cool. So, overall, I think it's a pretty good game. I do remember catching Sliggoo and thought Goodra was such a lame pseudo-legendary. I mean, you're coming off... I mean, you gotta admit, though, you're coming off of, like, Tyranitar, Metagross. You're coming off of Garchomp. Even Dragonite. And then you throw Goodra at me? You gotta be serious right now. Goodra's kind of lame looking. And I thought that was, like, kind of a letdown, too. I was like, the pseudo-legends are supposed to look like they're a badass. Like, they're about to, like, stomp your face in. And you got, like, a flipping, like, slime slug that's like a dragon. Like, it's... I don't know. It kind of let me down on that, too. Overall, I think it's a fun game. If you go back and play it, it definitely has probably the most in-depth story of all of them, except the next one, which is Pokemon Black and White 2, which I did not play. I'm not the only one in this boat, though. These games are like $150 $40 or whatever dollars. They're super expensive now. And no one at this time even bought these. I don't really think Gen 5 attracted it. I think Gen 5 attracted a lot of people, but it didn't really impress a lot of people either. So whenever these games came out, not a lot of people bought them. It just is what it is. And I really do think that these games, from the hindsight and what I've seen of them, are good. I do want to go play them, but I just don't have enough basis to even like say anything about these games. I'm gonna be completely honest. So yeah, that's left there. Okay, so I'm about to step on some people's toes here. X and Y, probably one of the pretty much what we have here is the golden age of Pokemon. This is the games on the DS and the Game Boy, and I know we're 20 minutes into this, and probably no one's watching, but these right here are the golden games that everybody, whenever they talk about Pokemon, they talk about these games. These are like the golden games, especially when you talk about my age group. Because these are about the time whenever people stop playing Pokemon. You gotta remember that. They stopped playing Pokemon around this time. Because Gen 5 came out in middle school for me. And like most people do, they stop playing Pokemon about that time. So this is pretty much at this point, everything else is like off the table for about my generation. Now, these next Pokemon games, I think some of them are better than some of these games. I'm gonna be completely honest. Okay? So here we go. We're going to go with X and Y. We got Megas. We got horrible story and horrible just fights because they're all easy. So that's why this game is very up and grabs as far as what I think is a good game in this sense. Now, this is why I say I'm going to step on some toes. Overall, I think this game's good. I think 6th Gen actually has, the story itself is really bad. The combat's really bad because it's super easy. Realistically, this game's a B tier. It goes above Gold, Silver. I like putting it up here just because this game got me into competitive Pokemon. This game kind of brought me back. What happened was I was on the bus with this kid on school, and we played Pokemon. Well, first off, we kind of talked to each other first, hey, yeah. And then I was like, I play Pokemon because I started playing Pokemon on the DS. He was like, oh, I play Pokemon too, sick. And he was like, okay, I make competitive teams. I was like, dude, I'm good at Pokemon. I'm going to beat you. So we started playing. This wipes me clean. Pretty much ever since then, I tried to get super good at Pokemon as far as the competitive scene goes so I could beat this kid. And then I kept playing it. Now I play Showdown, and now I'm I stream that. Again, The Real Clinker 2 on Twitch. And I stream Pokemon Showdown on occasion. I used to stream it a lot during this summer. And I really like competitive Pokemon, and it's because of this game that I got into it. And that is sincerely why I like 6th Gen a lot. I also like the Megas. I think the Megas conceptually are the best idea they've ever come up with, and I don't think it's anywhere near a hard idea to come up with. It's just a solid idea. You have Pokemon that people like that evolve into bigger and stronger Pokemon. Wow. It's literally the premise of Pokemon, right? But you just stick a Mega Stone on them. Now, they did that with Dynamaxing, and I'll get this to it a little bit, but it's not necessarily Dynamaxing is not the same as Megas by any stretch. I think Megas, the conceptual idea of Megas is just much better. It's super good. As far as the casual sense and even the just longtime fans. Most people don't even play Pokemon competitively. Most people think it's a joke, and frankly it probably is. I just like playing it. I'm probably stupid for it. But when at the end of the day, it's Megas were the way to go. And for that reason, this Pokemon game, it has to be an A tier. This game, for what it stood for, has to be an A tier. I don't care about the story and that the Pokemon were just literally it's you don't even have to play the game to win. It's just this game stood for so much more, and it should have stayed at the top. That's kind of what I'm saying. And next up, we got the remakes of Gen 3, Sapphire and Omega Ruby. Now, I got this game. Yeah. Now, I did. Okay. I got all the way to the Deoxys cutscene. I don't know if that was beating it because I played in Spanish. Because I thought that. I don't know. I thought I was like going to be like smart or something and play it in Spanish because I thought that Pokemon games were too easy now and I was going to have a cakewalk. And I was going to challenge myself by putting it in Spanish. I do regret doing that, but I did do that, and I'm pretty sure I beat the game. I'm like 90% sure. I got the Deoxys and Rayquaza cutscene. And this game was really fun. I think it's much better than Gen 3, just like the base games. I don't think it had a Battle Frontier, though. Let me just double check this. Okay. Oh, the Battle Resort. Okay. I don't even think I had the Battle Frontier. I think this game was just like straight up like you play the game. But as far as the cutscenes go, super cool. You saw like Deoxys and Rayquaza kind of like duke it out with Mega Rayquaza, which is like super cool. You got tons of new Megas. You got to fly around the map, which is like freaking crazy. I don't even understand why they don't do that now. That was like literally nuts. I guess you do that in Arceus. But like then you like flew around the map. You were like on the supersonic jet like Latios and Latios and you were like flying around like zooming. Super cool game. As far as like what they're pushing, I feel like the DS to its limits with this game. Maybe Sun and Ultra Sun and Moon did that, but this game seemed like it was doing that too. Overall, very fun game. I think this game is going to stand the test of time. I think right now it's kind of just like shoved under the rug. But this game is very good. And I do like it. Very fun game. I think it's actually, if this was like in a chrono, this would be like up here. I do think this might go up here as well to the S tier. If I was understanding of it more, it's probably as an S tier game. Gotta go faster. Sorry if I'm not gonna be sorry, but I just don't think anyone's watching anymore. We got Solgaleo with Lunala on Sun and Moon. I just did not like these games. I don't know. They're like these ones are the definition of too easy with no good gimmick. So when I talk about X and Y, the game was easy, but the gimmick was so good and so prominent, and it brought me into competitive Pokemon that I feel like it deserves A tier as far as that goes. Like, if Megas were still a thing now and all they did was build Megas from there on out, I don't feel like they would have ever got Backlash. It just added some extra gimmicks on top of that. Like, if they kept Megas, but then, like, added other things like Dynamax and stuff, like, they would have never got Backlash. So, not saying that it would have changed the route and, like, the course of, like, Pokemon, but it is what it is. So, Sun and Moon. Sun is I don't know, man. I put it in a D tier, honestly. I just did not think this game was fun. I did not like Z-moves. I did not like the whole HM mechanic where you ride around on your, like, Pokemon. I did not like... So there's still a lot of things I really did not care for in this game, if I'm completely honest. It just was not, like... In comparison to these games above, where, like, all the gimmicks kind of work together... This game just had the Z moves, which was really strong one-shot moves, which I never understood how to use properly. They made less sense than Dynamaxing, because Dynamax, like, if you use Max Airstream, you're guaranteed to get your speed boost up. If you use Max Knuckle, you're guaranteed to get your, attack up. In these games, you just have, like, a random jank whatever with anything. Splash, for some reason, like, boosted your stats. You use Sketch and it with Smeargle and it boost all your stats like by 2 or something like that. It like EVO boost. There's like so much crap that not many people except competitive Pokemon people are going to know what's going on. And I didn't play competitive in this gen, and I'm happy I didn't, because that issue was super boring to watch when I was watching it. This game is just like... a very cool concept, but they went from very kind of stable competitive stuff here in like Gen 6, and they ramped it up all the way to like the maximum they can possibly go with it. And it is a kind of a cool concept, but the later gens just executed on it much better. And I just don't really think it hit home with me at all. Now, I didn't play the next gens. I also thought this game was just like cheeks easy too. Like the Guardians are like the only hard thing in the game, and even at that, they were still easy. So yeah, I'm just gonna put this one a D tier. I did not like Sun, and for that reason, I did not pick up Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But my friend had this game, and the only thing that I think was significantly different from the base games was the wormholes and Necrozma, obviously corrupting, Lunala and Solgaleo. But the wormholes were cool. I think the wormholes are actually a neat idea. I think it was probably the funnest way from what I've seen so far of catching like legendary Pokemon and stuff. And I'm just gonna say that he had Ultra Moon. I did not have this game, by the way. I just think like from everything I've seen him play of it, that's probably the biggest difference. And they probably made the game a little bit harder. Normally the remake, I just haven't had enough like. Okay, technically this game would be an I have not played yet, because I did not play it, but I saw my friend play it, and I thought the wormholes were a cool idea, so I'm going to put this one in B tier. Fun game. It looked like, so I might go back and play the enhanced version, Ultra Moon or Ultra Sun, but I did not like the base game. The base games were just bad. Okay, so next we got the Let's Go's, Pikachu and Eevee. So this is whenever I talk about kind of gimmicks that don't land home with me as much. Now, I did end up playing a lot of like Pokemon Go recently. I came back and played these games and they're fun. I just think that overall, I don't really want to flick my hand every single time I want to catch a Pokemon and try to do all that stuff. It's just Gen 1 again. It's a lot of grinding. I don't know. It's just kind of like a give or take. I think the Gen did a disservice, to be honest. I really just think Gen 1 is just overhyped. That's just like my opinion. I don't think Gen 1's really that great as far as gens go. I'll put this one in B tier. I made it sound like a horrible game. I think it's at least... Nah, I can't put it on par with like these three. Nah, it can't happen. I'll put it in C tier. I actually did get Pikachu. Yeah, I got Pikachu. So I'm putting it in C tier. I think the graphics on this game were substantially better than anything else that's been released Pokemon-wise on the console to this day. Scarlet and Violet have not come out yet, but those games don't look, overworld-wise, they don't look better than this game. So overall, Let's Go Pikachu is pretty fun. And I also like the co-op experience. I think there's some definite beneficial things for this game. If this game actually was made again, I think they should opt in for a manual catch like a normal Pokemon game. Keep the co-op. Keep the Let's Go aspect. And make it into a different gen, or make it into like a Safari Park type adventure, or make it just completely into its own game where you kind of like go into like a safari, like Let's Go Snap or whatever, the picture game, and make it into something like that, and then maybe you go around this island and you like catch different Pokemon and stuff like that. That'd be really cool if they made this into like their own fleshed out full game instead of just be remaking a game, because this was kind of the start of having overworld Pokemon. It's like in the overworld, which is cool. I don't think that's bad. And it was just... I just think the Gen 1 aspect just really threw me off. The amount of grinding you have to do in this game is freaking ridiculous for what it's worth. And I just couldn't beat it. I'm not going to lie. I've never beaten Gen 1 fully all the way through just because I get so bored of it. I do like these games at the end of the day because they started me in Pokemon, but everything else Gen 1 wise is just, except Fire Red, because those games are cool. And if I was to actually play through them again, it'd be through Fire Red, and I have played the ROM hacks and stuff, and that's why I can assure you that this game is the most optimal way of playing Gen 1. I would not play Let's Go if you're playing Gen 1. Now, Pokemon Sword and Shield, boom. Stepping on people's toes again. I think these games are great. As far as the gameplay goes of Dynamaxing, which is the gimmick for this gen, it is the best competitive gimmick they've made. Now, to understand how these gimmicks work, especially Dynamax, it's not even that hard. In comparison to Z moves, which literally just threw everyone out, in my opinion, it made no sense because basically there's stats attributed to individual moves with Z moves. Well, Dynamaxing, like I said, you do Max Knuckle, you go up and attack. You do Quake, or the ground version, and you go 0.15 in special defense. You go Max Steel Strike, you go up in defense. If you go Psychic, you get a Psychic terrain. They were set in stone with overall moves. It was not individual moves. It was overall types of moves that had the buffs or nerfs to your debuffs to your opponent. For that, I think the gimmick was extremely well executed. When you first play it, it seems stupid. It seems not good. There's ways to play around Dynamax that are very unique to the game. And I think overall it's very fun to play once you understand how Dynamax works. If you don't know how it works, it's kind of just boring and stupid. That's kind of the double-edged sword here with the Pokemon Sword and Shield. You have to understand how Dynamax works in order for it to be a fun game. Once you understand how it works, it's going to increase your funness with this game. The gameplay itself is, I don't know, it's very up in the air if it's good or not. I don't know, because the Safari Zone area that's like in the middle of the game, they don't need to do that ever again. And the reason why I say that is not because I don't want to have these insane Pokemon off the rip. It's because I don't want to have the ability to catch these incredible Pokemon off the rip. I went through the first gym with an Axew, which is a pseudo-legendary Pokemon going up a first gym, and I have Axew the entire playthrough. That's cool, but it's like, why? It's like I'm literally catching an in-game Pokemon on literally the first 2 seconds of the game. That's kind of, the pacing of the game was weird is what I'm saying. Now, the actual difficulty, I don't think it was bad. I think the raids are kind of, the AI for this gen for the raids was really busted. Your friendly AI in this gen was bad in the raids. Let's put it that way. They were really bad. And I think the multiplayer aspect was cool. Like I said, the competitive is what I play a lot of on Showdown, is like Gen 8 competitive. I think it's really fun. Overall, I'm going to give this one an A tier. Frankly, it could go in the S tier. This game, honestly, in my opinion, has revamped the fact you get fast XP candies. You get all these just very quality of life improvements on the game in general. Makes this game stand out above the rest that I don't think the other games can touch. Even to like anything before that, they couldn't even touch it. The quality of life stuff that Gen 8 introduced for competitive players, casual players, people that just want to play the game to collect their own Pokemon that they like, was super good. And they're carrying that into Scarlet and Violet and improving on it through Arceus's gameplay. I mean, this game, you can say what you want as far as being the new gens and they suck and, they're easy. They improve almost everything. Like, you have like I said, you have the XP candy. You can go change your, I'm pretty sure you can change your natures. You can change almost everything you want, your IVs, or you can make your EVs or IVs, I forget which one, but you max them out, and it's pretty easy in this game. They made it very easy to build Pokemon teams and what you want, which is what people want. They want that. The only thing I will say is about the Safari Zone is I wish I'd be unlocked later in the game, like after maybe the 6th gym or something like that. maybe have like the linear path still linear up until like you get to a certain point, or maybe you catch the legendaries and then it opens up, or maybe after the couple first gyms it opens up. But with that said, they're doing it differently in Scarlet and Violet, where it just seems like you just can do whatever you want. You can go fight the gyms. You have 18 gyms to fight. And it's just like, okay, at the end of the day, if I was ranking Arceus, I didn't play Sword, but it's the same game. Zacian's busted, and Zamazenta is like, okay. At the end of the day, that's really the only difference. And I'm just going to talk about Arceus and Scarlet and Violet here for a sec. Arceus, I thought was boring. And I know people are going to be like, oh, you thought that game was boring? Then how can you sit through Sword and Shield? I thought Arceus was boring because I just didn't really have the patience to sit there and try to hunt down the animals. I like the gimmick. I like the whole premise. I'm not saying the game itself was boring. I'm just saying, like, for me, it wasn't, like, the funnest game ever. But the idea behind it is what's helping and executing the newer generations of Pokemon, and that's what I like to see. That was their experiment, and it paid off. And people really keen to that. And I actually do think the overworld catching the Pokemon is super cool. Now, with that said, I just couldn't really, like, focus that well with, like, Arceus. I thought it was just kind of a more boring game. I think the combat was very just lackluster. I think it was a lot faster for the people that don't want to do the fighting. But I also think it was just boring. So that's why if I was rating it, it'd be like a B or C, somewhere around there. Probably a B tier, maybe even a C tier. I'm gonna be completely honest, it might be a C tier. It's unfortunate, but in the Gen 4 remakes, I don't know, man. I didn't play through the second half. I probably should, because they're probably like the fun half. But the first half was like mid, like B, just be on par with like literally just on par with Pearl and Diamond. So that's where those would go. Scarlet and Violet, talking about those now. I have high hopes. And I just really don't think I'm wrong on this. From everything they've shown, I legitimately think Scarlet and Violet have a legitimate chance to be on par on S tier. And you can hate me for saying that. You can say all you want. I legitimately think Scarlet and Violet have a very high probability of being an S tier game. I think the gimmick of terrestrialization for competitive and casuals is very fun. I think the fact that the TM machines being there, allowing basically anybody to have access to these things that are not hidden in the ground anymore, you can just pick them up. You could just go get items, stick them in the machine, boom, you get Blizzard. You know, you get that. You have, I don't know how the Legendary is going to work, to be honest, but it's just like the auto-battling and then the overworld Pokemon, having your friends be there. It's just going to be, I think it's going to be an awesome game. I'm super hyped for it. Like I said, I'm going to be streaming on The Real Klinger 2 on Twitch, and hopefully you guys like this video. You know, let me know what other tier lists you want me to make. I need to start making these things shorter so, you know, it's actually a reasonable time frame. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you have a great day. Hope to see you again soon. See you.